Exploring a performance gap, motivating reluctant readers at the secondary level. Hello, welcome to my capstone presentation. My name is Christy Westbrooks, and I'm currently a graduate student at Northwest Christian University, where I also received my undergraduate degree in education with a minor in English Language Arts in May of 2012. NCU gave me a strong foundation during my undergraduate career, and I wanted to pursue my master's degree at the same university to continue that level of excellence so that I could strive to be the very best teacher that I could be. I'm set to graduate in May of 2013 and have had a very busy year. I'm currently a first-year teacher in English Language Arts in the South Umpqua School District at South Umpqua High School. I teach 4 sections of freshman English, 1 section of an essential skills lab to juniors and seniors, and 1 section of modern lit and film as a narrative to juniors and seniors as well. I'm also currently teaching 2 dual credit courses through Umpqua Community College, so I have a full teaching load. It's been a busy and eventful year as a first-year teacher pursuing my master's degree in curriculum and instructional technology, but it's been a blessing and an excellent experience. As this journey comes to a close, I'm happy to present to you my capstone project, which I've been working on throughout this year. I'm pleased and a little bit surprised to say that my focus has changed as far as my instructional theme for my capstone project from the beginning of the year until now. Part of that comes from being a first-year teacher and watching my freshman level students struggle in various areas such as reading and writing and even just meeting expectations. So while my instructional theme has slowly evolved into focusing on various performance gaps at the secondary level, specifically gaps that are impacting their high school performance at the freshman level. But I've watched them range from gaps in expectations to motivational gaps, again, as I mentioned, such as those of reluctant readers and writers. So since students' academic performance during their freshman year of high school is an indicator for graduation rates, I really wanted to highlight some of the key issues that can potentially affect their overall performance. Since I've had the opportunity to watch those students firsthand from the beginning of the school year until now, which we only have about 8 weeks left, I've really watched them face the issues that I think are the most important to address. So as I show you my data that I've been tracking throughout this year, I'm anxious for you to also see what I think might be the solution to some of those instructional gaps, some of those performance gaps. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your taking the time to view my capstone presentation, and I hope that you'll see that although my direction has changed a little bit, it is truly because it's in the best interest of my students, and I want to create the best learning environment possible for them so that we can truly create success together. So thank you again and enjoy. There are many factors that prompted this action research topic. I chose this focus because I currently work with approximately 140 reluctant readers each and every day, and it bothers me. Today's students aren't really interested in reading at all, unless it involves reading in a social network setting. It's affecting their ability to read fluently and/or comprehend text, and most disturbingly, their actual interest in the subject area overall. Even the top students don't seem interested in reading, and it's challenging to engage them in traditional curricular activities on a daily basis. So this recognition of unmotivated and reluctant readers, coupled with their preference with social media over reading, And the recognition of the need for a tipping point in order to inspire reluctant readers is really what has helped drive my research. There are also additional factors, however, and there's many different types of secondary reluctant readers. For the purposes of this research, I'll be focusing on teens who read well but have little or no interest in doing so. Although the technology is extremely limited at the high school that I teach at, I'm hoping that I can implement realistic 21st century teaching tools that revive their interest in reading on some level. Through a who, what, when, why, where, and how approach, I hope to get to the root of the problem and explore as many engaging and inspiring opportunities for engagement as possible. Throughout this research, and being a first-year classroom teacher, I've definitely seen some trends. Secondary students are no longer interested in going to the library to check out books. Secondary students also overwhelmingly seem to lack interest in just reading in general, especially for pleasure. They're also very technologically driven and completely immersed in the world of social media. We are living in a world that is dominated by technology. Whether it's home, school, or our place of work, we have become heavily dependent on any form of technology that makes our lives faster, easier, or more convenient. Visit any high school campus when students are on their own time, and you'll find them assessing any available form of technology that they can get their hands on, from texting or checking out the internet on their cell phones to using their laptops to type a last-minute term paper. It's inescapable and almost indescribable. As today's students live and learn in a technologically driven society, we are prompted to wonder how that fits into our students' educational picture. This has had a significant impact on our students, especially when it comes to the subject area of reading. Are students as actively engaged as they could be in school? Or are the perks of the technological world that they're growing up in outweighing the benefits of good old-fashioned reading, at least in the minds of our students? So this brings me to my research focus. My primary research question was, why are high school students so unmotivated to read? Along with that, I also proposed a secondary research question. Would the implementation of technology in the classroom help motivate students to read? Remember, I mentioned that I'm teaching in a school with very limited technology. It is possible that we are largely ignoring the fact that we're not meeting the needs of our learners due to the lack of technological implementation in our school systems, especially at the secondary level. Textbooks are outdated, technology is limited, and students seem to have lost interest in anything that doesn't provide them with instant gratification. This spills over into the area of reading, which requires students to focus for longer amounts of time. There is a growing trend with technology at the elementary school level and many computerized reading programs, but once students advance into middle school and transition into high school, the level of technology that is being used for reading purposes seems to decrease. At least that's an example of how it is in the school that I teach in. Whether this is due to lack of interest, funding, or comfort level from an educator's standpoint, it is a trend that poses a practical problem that prompts further research. As these crucial questions are raised, it becomes necessary to research the benefits of technology in schools in an effort to measure its impact on our students' educational futures. While it seems logical to assume that since technology is advancing at such a rapid pace, so is curriculum and reading-related instruction, research is proving otherwise. I would like to share with you, however, the hypothesis that I crafted. Given an enthusiastic teacher, an engaging curriculum, and the implementation of technology in the classroom, reluctant readers can successfully be turned in to motivated readers. There were many models and methods that I chose to use during the course of this research. The primary model was where the research was conducted, which was in my secondary classroom at South Umpqua High School in the South Umpqua School District in Myrtle Creek, Oregon. And I chose to focus on primarily freshman level students, although I was also always in tune to what was happening as far as trends with my junior and senior students as well. The methods that I used throughout the course of this research were multiple data collection strategies. I issued surveys, I conducted personal interviews, I made many observations, and I also distributed questionnaires, which the students did a great job of answering honestly. I also happened to put together an action research proposal and an instructional design plan that both modeled the work that I was doing during my action research project. These are available to review at my website, which happens to be on Weebly, and the site is listed there for you. Please visit that if you have the opportunity. There's a lot of additional information that goes along with this project that's very beneficial. As far as exploring the action research topic altogether, I had to start by asking myself, what exactly is a reluctant reader? So in general, the word reluctant is an unwillingness to do something. And it really went along with the focus of this research. Students that are more than capable of reading, but they're just not interested. They're reluctant readers. So I really liked this graphic. Sir, I can read just fine, but I hate books. And if you'll notice at the bottom, it actually says, keeping up with electronic media. What does a reluctant reader look like, or even a reluctant writer? I found these photos that really depicted what I see in the classroom every day. Students that are frustrated when they have to read and focus for long periods of time. Again, that instant gratification piece. And students that just simply appear to be bored with reading. Now, those were my observations, but as I dove into my research a little bit farther, I think you'll be interested in the findings. First, I needed to conduct a review of the literature. So one of the key things that stood out to me when I started researching this topic was in 1985, the Commission on Reading, which is funded by the U.S. Department of Education, issued a really interesting report called Becoming a Nation of Readers. They were trying to address the issues related to literacy in the nation's schools. Now keep in mind, that's back in 1985. What I found is that more than 2 decades later, educators and parents are still trying to figure out how to deal with reluctant readers. Also worth noting is that the U.S. Department of Education also acknowledged, again, these reluctant readers, they're able to read, they just are only interested in reading something that's interesting to them. I found this very interesting to me, especially as a first-year teacher, because that's actually another factor that helped drive my research. Wow, they can read for the most part. I know that there are some that have issues with reading, but in general, they can read. They're just not interested in reading. So what's the proposed tipping point? Let's look first at some more words of wisdom from some stakeholders and proponents. I love this quote by Laura Robb. We don't want to live in the 21st century and teach as if we're in the 19th century. And Donalyn Miller, the book whisperer, who actually pointed out, why is the need to motivate and inspire young readers such a hot-button topic? This topic is in the limelight because so many children don't read. Again, obvious problem, looking for a solution. Malcolm Gladwell probably had the truest thing to say. There is a simple way to package information that under the right circumstances could make it irresistible. What are those circumstances? We're going to continue to look at that over the course of this PowerPoint. Through interviews, surveys, questionnaires, and observations, the research uncovered a staggering number of freshman level students who have absolutely no interest in either reading academically or reading for pleasure. Why? Well, one contributing factor is their attitudes about reading, and their attitudes really about seeing the value of that in their life. Again, Donalyn Miller, great quote. If you talk to children, they will tell you that they don't see reading as meaningful in their life, which is the experience that I've had this year as a first-year teacher. Let's see if there's any truth to that, however.
So I'm hanging out with A and J today to talk a little bit about reading and writing. Do you guys like to read and write?
No.
Are you in high school?
Yes.
So what don't you like about reading?
It's boring.
What's boring about it?
It takes a long time. And I have better things to do. Yep, same here.
So what kind of grades do you guys get in school?
4.0.
Really? And you don't like to read and write?
Nope.
So tell me what would make it more fun in the classroom every day when you have to do reading and writing in English language arts?
If you could listen to music while you were reading and or writing. With mirrors.
What are some things that your teacher might be able to do to make it more fun or
Read to us
engaging?
out loud so we don't have to do anything. Audio tapes.
Audio tapes. Okay. What about technology? What do you guys think about technology? Does that play a
I love
role
Facebook.
in making it more exciting?
Yeah.
How? Give me some examples. Do you guys have technology in your
Kindles.
school?
More people are reading because
Smart
of Kindles.
Those are cool.
So does that make you want to read and write more?
Yeah, I guess. No.
One says she guesses and the other says no. So why do you think you two aren't the only reluctant readers and writers? Why do you think that teenagers aren't really into it anymore?
Because there's things like Facebook and Instagram and iPods that are much more fun.
What do you think, Jay?
That there's better stuff to do,
For example?
like internet and sports and
We just don't have
Watching
time for
TV.
that.
Interesting perspectives from freshman students. Thank you for hanging out with me today to talk about reading and writing.
I issued a reading portfolio, which was a part survey, part questionnaire on what, why, how, and when do you read. Again, this was addressing freshman level students, and these particular results came from my fourth period English Language Arts class, 25 students. Students were asked to check the statement that best matched their own beliefs. 28% of the students felt reading wasn't really that important. Another 28%, however, believe that it's crucial to their success in the adult world. 16% thought it was maybe more important now than ever before. But again, 28% believe that reading is less important than it used to be. During that same survey/questionnaire, students were also asked their opinion of how they expect reading for school to be. A whopping 68% expected it to be boring. 20% expected it to be interesting. 0.4% expected it to be difficult. Again, very low. We're talking about students who can read. They're just not interested. And 0.8% expected it to be useful. Some of the feedback that I also received from that same survey and questionnaire were the following statements. But the one that really stood out the most to me and echoed the survey results was the one from Bryant A. in the 9th grade. I can read, understand, and remember anything that I read, but it's really boring. There were many observations that I made during my research. I have a total of 94 freshman students that I interact with during the day, during English Language Arts classes. And what I did was observe during a 10-minute preferred activity time where the students were allowed to choose what they would like to do or how they would like to spend that 10 minutes, of course constructively. And it was interesting to see that really only 2% out of all of those students chose to read a book during that time. 52% chose to listen to an iPod or another device, MP3 player, while they were working on ELA makeup coursework. 26%, unfortunately, were texting in class and making non-productive use of their time, but again, utilizing their technology. And 20% were working on current EL coursework without any type of additional technological devices. So ultimately, I asked myself the question, what are we competing against? Well, we're competing against their BFF, which is the term all of my freshmen use, and its name is technology. From iPads to iPods to Instagram to the instant gratification that they receive from social networking and social media, we're competing against all of that. Notice the like at the top. Competing against Facebook. I deal with that every day in my classroom, even though students aren't allowed to have their cell phones out unless we're using them for a technological activity, which, by the way, was a positive result of this research. I found out that that works, but we'll hear more about that later. So what's really wrong, though, with our educational picture? Prensky says it best, and even back in 2001, today's students are no longer the people our educational system was designed to teach. And Malcolm Gladwell, we're in desperate need of a tipping point, which is what I was in search of during this research, because the children, according to Donald Miller again, the book whisperer, cannot wait. What's the proposed tipping point? Education plus entertainment just might equal our tipping point. And I had to ask myself, as educators, and especially as a first-year teacher, is what I'm battling every day in the classroom, asking them to put their cell phones away, all of those things, those contributing problems, distractors, could that actually be our solution? Technology is a crucial component of education in the 21st century, and schools across the United States are quite honestly struggling to keep up. While researching the personal and educational benefits that technology can provide to students, especially to reluctant readers, it became apparent that schools need to do all they can to incorporate technology into their curriculum in an effort to maximize student engagement throughout the learning process. This research explores documented data and opinions from top researchers on the subject of technology and education and focuses on reading benefits that it provides to students, such as higher levels of engagement and elevated comprehension levels. It also looks at the reasons why so many students are reluctant readers, along with why educators may not be using technology to motivate their students to read. So again, whether it's due to a lack of funding to purchase equipment, a lack of training to use what they have, I don't know. But regardless of any obstacles, it's clear that today's secondary students are craving an education laced with technology. Without it, academic tasks such as reading just don't hold the same appeal for the majority of students. Introducing one new innovative and free classroom resource that just could be part of our tipping point, part of our solution. Again, the free website Pinterest. Hey, it houses a myriad of technological advances and ideas for today's technologically driven students. A few of those happen to be 25 ways to use Twitter in the classroom, piquing their interest. With this master's program, all of us received an iPad. There's a lot of sites using just one iPad in the classroom, a lot of resources for that. Pinterest also had some more inspired resources, such as Brain Pop, Flocabulary, educational hip-hop in the classroom, which after this research, I started using that, and it definitely piqued my students' interest for Romeo and Juliet more than it would have if we just read it out of the text. So these are just a few, but more great ideas can be found on my Pinterest board, and the website is listed right below there for you. There's a lot of other additional technological ideas and resources that many educators and researchers and authors came up with, like sending educational texts in class, bring your own technology days, which I've since incorporated, creating a commercial instead of a typical book report, lots of different ideas. But by high school, digital technology should definitely be taking a prominent place in student studies, both as tools of learning and as tools to learn about. And that came from Lowell Monk. Do students have the tools and technology to support this shift? National research shows that they do. However, most of the secondary students in my rural school district have cell phones, but a lot of them don't have laptops, desktops, or the internet in their homes, which presents somewhat of a challenge, but it just makes me work that much harder to try to figure out how I can make that work for them. So the answer ultimately is yes. We definitely have the resources to be able to help provide technology to our students to help engage them so that they come out of that reluctant reader status and are inspired. Because ultimately, my objective as an educator is to enthusiastically meet the diverse needs of learners through the incorporation of fun, engaging, and relevant technological material. Because quite honestly, students love technology. I love that graphic that is on this slide. Research conclusions. Well, all I can say is that obviously it's time to move forward. And as far as technology is concerned, there is no going back. Today's secondary students need to be able to read, live, learn, compete, and keep up in the 21st century. And through technology integration, they can do just that. I love this quote by Dr. Henry. The most valuable thing that we have is enthusiasm. Once we understand the power of enthusiasm, the power of changing our vision, and the power of using technology, that's when enthusiasm really comes through. I will definitely use this research in the future. It's already changed the way that or changed my current practice in the classroom. I'm looking forward to sharing results with colleagues and with our school board. Hopefully our data results are just driven up by this. I'd also like to acknowledge my students who helped play a huge role in this research process, and my NCU family, professors, and friends, as well as my own personal family for their unwavering support throughout the course of this program. I hope that you've enjoyed this capstone presentation. Hopefully you've been enlightened in some way. Thank you for joining me on my journey, and may you always continue to seek out new tipping points with amazing enthusiasm.